Hello there, this is Bella, Freedom to Be Art podcast, every Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Brazilian time zone, okay? Obviously, sometimes we do have some delays. I depend on myself, and there's only a few people to help me, okay? So, how are you today? How is your Saturday? How's your week? How are you feeling? Are you expressing yourself? How are you expressing yourself? Are you holding back and telling people that you love them? Are you scared of being silly, cold crazy? Been there, done it a few times. Okay, more than a few times. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the way the female brain and obviously the spiritual side of us goddesses, how does it work? But also, how do men deal with the heaviness of their masculinity? Because being in your masculine all the time must be very draining, right? I can say that because one of my very good friends who will be joining me today, I didn't have enough time, but she will be joining me. She actually explained that a lot of women are on their masculine most of the time. It's a self-defense mechanism, also a survival technique that I have been using without actually noticing. Sometimes we don't even notice. Sometimes we don't pay attention. And we don't even know what that means. Now the question for you is, I want to know. Do you know what being in your masculine or your feminine actually means? Because this is all gibberish, right? This is gibberish because, why? What's the reason? We were never taught that in school. Nobody ever stopped us in school unless you went to a Rudolf Steiner school, Michael Hall, right? Nobody ever stopped us and said, are you in touch with your masculine and your feminine energy in a balanced way, in a balanced manner? Did anybody ask you that? If you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter, sexual orientation, did somebody ask you, a teacher, a parent, a friend? I guess not. So there comes the challenge of understanding what is to be in your feminine, what's to be in your masculine. There's this concept that people believe that you instantly have to either understand it or apply it, because understanding and applying are two very different things. We both know that. Obviously, I'm putting this to practice because I have always worked since the age of 14. Has anybody here worked since they were like teenagers, very young teenagers? So I have worked for my own cash, for my own money, like the British say, for my own dosh. I have worked to pay for my clothes, for going to the movies. That's what I did. At the beginning, it wasn't so comfortable. I was very fearful. And even the other day, I was speaking to my friend, who is wonderful, an incredible, multifunction, holistic therapist, and she will be talking to you guys very, very soon. Oh yeah, and I've got a book writer as well. Yes, she's bringing you some saucy books. Yes. But she said, I'm going back to my bike riding. And I just thought, wow, I haven't been bike riding since, God, I don't remember. Since I was a teenager? Okay, why haven't I been bike riding? And then thinking about the masculine and the feminine energy, I remembered that my father said to me, if you want to be a grown-up, you need to get a job at weekends, even though you're studying. You need to pay for your own stuff. And I just thought, oh my God, that's so harsh because, you know, my parents, they got divorced when I was a teenager. So it was quite a hard transition. It wasn't easygoing. Even though they got along, even though they respected each other, in front of, the kids at the time, my sister and myself, we never saw them arguing or raising their voice or swearing. Actually, I never seen my father or my mother swearing until I was like 13. So it doesn't mean that because we didn't have all this hardship that it wasn't traumatic, right? Because the error that we commit is either making everything into a trauma, right? We make everything into a trauma. Oh, I'm traumatized. Oh, this is a trigger. That's a trigger. And we see triggers as a bad thing as well, right? Like, I found out that triggers actually make you heal. If something is triggering you, it's asking you to heal. So if you get triggered, don't go, oh my God, I got triggered. I think this is so bad. It's actually not bad. It's actually good. It's actually a solution for you to be able to find yourself. Obviously, we are finding ourselves every day. We are changing every day. Every day there's something new, right? Every day there's a change, and that's fine. The essence is going to remain the same, right? Your essence will remain the same. But your goals, your ideas about yourself, about others, about the circles that you are in, about the career that you have chosen, they come tumbling down. Not because they're bad. Everything has their purpose, a quality for us to actually reach a level of intellectual, physical, material, spiritual growth. But they had the purpose of getting you here, and now where you go from now, it's different. It's different. It's a new journey altogether. Okay, so going back to my bike incident, right? So my father said, I'm not going to give you a ride. I'm not going to give you a ride because you're a grown-up. You're 14. And I'm thinking, am I? Because, women start getting their breasts, they start showing, and your figure starts getting more feminine in the sense that you're more sensual because you've got the curves. Some women have the small waist and big hips, and that was my case. And I was scared. I was scared. I didn't know why. Why was I scared of becoming a woman? Where did this insecurity come from? So I'm riding my bike with my flower dress. I had a dress that my grandmother made for me, bless her. She's not here on this planet anymore. So my grandmother Nair, Vovó Nair, made a really beautiful flowery dress for me. And it had buttons like, in front, which made it very sensual, right? For a 14-year-old. But it was like a princess dress, they call it the princess look. And I put my dress on. It was very, very long. I put my little white trainers on, got my bike, got on the bike, and I lived very close to farms because obviously you guys know my accent is a little bit mixed now, right? But I was brought up in the UK, so I lived in Sussex, and this time that I was 14, I was living in a little village called Wye in Kent, close to Ashford, an hour away from London. So, my father being an agronomist, right, working with sustainable agriculture, we were living like in this farm, kind of in the middle of nowhere, okay? Kind of in the middle of nowhere. There was like a pig farm close to the place, and we used to go and watch the little piglets after they were born, and the sheep as well. Oh, I love the sheep, the baby sheep. Oh, so sweet. And then I got onto my bike. So getting on my bike, that sunny British afternoon, summer. Yeah, it was the summer. It was the beginning of the summer, just before, our break started. And I got onto my bike, and I'm riding my bike, and I'm like, oh, I'm a bit scared, but it's okay. But I have this feeling of being afraid, and I don't know how to explain it. I don't know how to explain it. Nobody ever told me anything. Nobody said anything negative about being a girl and riding a bike in the countryside, because that's where I was, right? So I'm riding my bike and I'm like, I got this feeling. I don't know. I feel so, I don't know. I feel so exposed. Okay, I better button my dress up. I better button it up and button it down, right? So I just left a few buttons just to be able to actually move my legs. And I'm feeling like a little nun, right? Nothing against nuns, okay? So halfway through the field, and this really narrow little road that you guys know, you guys that are in Britain, or anybody that's been in Britain, in Kent or in Sussex, anywhere really, everything is very narrow. So like if two cars are coming the opposite way, one of them has to like park on the side, like up on like a hill, like nearly on top of the trees, to be able to let the other one come through, right? So I'm riding my bike, I'm very, very conscious. I'm like, I need to be careful because there's cars coming, right? There's cars coming, so I need to be careful. And there's the university, so there's a lot of people coming and going, you know, all the time. And then a convertible car goes by and comes back. The convertible car comes back, full of guys, full of uni guys. And I think, oh my God, this is like a movie. And it was a red convertible. And for a moment, you know, because I have these millions of thoughts in my head, I thought, this is so cinematic, right? Like, this car, this convertible is red, full of like good looking guys inside. And they're all in their suits, looking so smart. They probably came out from a college party, because it was the London University that was there. And basically, instead of seeing humor in it, they started saying, ooh, nice curves, ooh, nice body, nice this, nice that. And I can't even remember all the words that they said. I remember when they talked about my waist, and then they talked about my butt, which really I don't think anybody could see in that dress, because that dress was quite big. But then they talked about my cleavage, and I was in such panic that I just looked at them, like in a state of shock, afraid of them doing something to me. And all these weird ideas came into my head, like, I'm alone. I'm alone in a tiny, tiny piece of road, which both sides don't have any houses. And there's only the crop fields, and I'm scared. So I just ran with my bike as fast as I could, and yes, they were laughing, and they kind of accelerated, which the noise just made me even more scared. And I just ran, and then I fell with my bike, and I hurt my leg. My nice white trainers were like dirty, and I just got really, really sad. And I decided not to ride my bike. I decided to cut way through the field so I could go to Withersdale, which was one of the places connected to the college that belonged to the London University. So I decided to cut way because I knew that nobody would find me. Well, nobody that was on that path would find me there. And then I was just, you know, my knees were bleeding, my ankles hurting, I was feeling stupid, and I just dragged my bike. The bike didn't break, by the way. What broke was, I don't know, my courage at the time. And I continued walking to Withersdale. And I got there, I felt so safe because I knew there was people there that they knew who I was, and they could protect me. They could protect me. So I walked from there, from the middle of nowhere to Withersdale, and then I had to walk a little bit more, which was on the main road. It was bigger. And then when I got to work, I just had the most terrible day because I used to work at the Tickle Trout. Does anybody know the Tickle Trout? Very famous pub. The owner's name was Ron, and his wife was Marie. Oh my God, Marie. I loved her, but she did make my life a living hell sometimes with her fits. Marie, if you're listening, I love you, but you're temperamental, girl. You know that. And I got to work and I was feeling ashamed from falling from my bike, and I didn't even know how to explain to myself in my brain, why did I do that? Were those guys going to do something to me? And then it hit me. I was afraid of being raped. I was afraid. I was afraid of being sexually abused. So I stepped into my masculine from then onwards, which wasn't really great, to be totally honest with you, because then I started working more and more and like fending for my sister, even though, you know, my dad provided for us, but he didn't give us extra stuff. So, you know, he was a student at the University of London, so there was not a lot of cash left after he got paid, right? So more and more, gradually, I stepped into my masculine. And then at school, I suffered a lot of bullying from boys and from girls, from young men, you know, when I was 14, 15, 16. And then as my body started to gain shape, these same boys that used to bully me, that were becoming men, they would compliment me instead of bullying me. But they would still sound like bullies, you know. They would compliment me and they would say, "Ooh, nice curves." And at the time, guys, I didn't have this nose. I had a little bit of a lump here. I had a lump on my nose. Yes, I had a lump. And the Turkish lump, right? Because my surname implies that I do have some Lebanese roots, okay? This is why I've got the eyebrows, the sexy eyebrows. Yes. So I do have some Lebanese roots, and I had sinuses, and I had the sept, which was closed up. So when I got the surgery to be able to breathe, they decided to file my nose and make it a little bit nicer, with my consent, obviously. And they used to say, "Oh, such pretty curves. You look so beautiful." Shame about the nose. So I had to hear this throughout my teenage years. Okay? That made me step even more into my masculine, to be able to literally defend myself, stand up for myself, right? And then I used to really love this. I actually really miss this. Oh my God, I miss this. The boys, the age of 16, going to 17, right? Now they're different. And I met some people that are older than me, like 2 years, 3 years older than me. And these guys really appreciated me, and they thought my nose was beautiful, and the way that I was, and the way that I dressed, and the way that I spoke was different from the other girls. So, you know, I got invited on dates. I really enjoy this. They would go and pick me up at my place with their car. They just got their driver's license, and it was so funny. And then we would go to a nice pub outing during the day to have a nice meal in the open, or to have dinner, like sitting across the fireplace. Oh, so romantic, right? That really made me feel feminine. That really allowed me to express myself and to feel protected. But still, before getting into a car with a guy, I would think, is this guy gonna force me to do something? Is this gonna do something that I don't like? Is he much bigger than I am? How can I defend myself? And all these thoughts going through my head, right? All these thoughts that I didn't know where they came from. All this self-protection layer that I had to think about it and build it before I went anywhere. What was the name of the guy? I think it was Toby. Yeah, the first guy that I went on a date, I think it was Toby. And he was so nice, and he locked his keys inside the car on our first date. So like we were stranded in the middle of nowhere, because this is the countryside, like literally in front of the pub, which was, by the way, it was closed because it was a bank holiday and we didn't know it. So we had to like ask for somebody to come and get us, and obviously like get somebody to open the car because the keys were inside, which was funny. But then as time went by, I didn't ride my bike anymore. I got engaged, not to Toby, but to another guy called Paul. I didn't really want to get engaged. But I wanted to step into my feminine. I was 17 when I got engaged. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Okay, but it's fun. I was crazy. And then obviously it didn't go forward. And I had this best friend called Duncan. He was really my best friend. And I was in love with Duncan. I was so in love with Duncan. He made me really step onto my feminine, you know, because he was very masculine, very boyish, very funny, but at the same time very romantic. When I started dating the other guy who asked me later to like be his fiance, Duncan panicked and he left a CD with a letter. He went drunk to my house, which made me scared. Another thing, drunk people, they made me really, really scared. Like drunk men especially made me so scared, so aware. And Duncan left this CD. It was a Guns N' Roses CD. Written on it, obviously he was drunk, because my father told me, he said, oh, you're hanging around with this guy, he looks like an idiot, he was drunk and I think he loves you and he's looking like he's dangerous. Like my father said something like that. My father would never say something like that, but he said that about Duncan because it was just a stupid thing that he did. And then as I got home from dating Paul, and then later on in the year getting engaged to him, I listened to the songs and to the little note that Duncan left, right? The songs were like swearing at me, like telling me to F off and worse. And then I just thought, I'm not gonna answer him. I'm just not gonna speak to this guy ever again. He's not my friend. I think he was never my friend. So we had answering machines at that time. So I get out of the shower the next day and the answering machine goes, you know, bang, all that noise, and Duncan goes, why didn't you get back to me? I sent you this note. I gave you the songs that are, you know, they say what I want to tell you, but I can't tell you because I don't know how to tell you. And I'm like, I'm not gonna answer this, right? And I'm just listening to the answering machine. And he says, and there's something else. I'm standing outside your door and I can see your shadow looking at your answering machine. Why are you hiding from me, Sibel? Then I got dressed. I was really scared. I went out like angry and said, what are you doing here? You came here drunk, telling my father that you wanted me to listen to some random CD, some Guns N' Roses crap. And I remember like swearing was a really big deal for me at that time because it was like 16 going 17. And he said, did you listen to the song? And I said, yes. And you were swearing at me. Like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, man? And he said, oh, let me check. Oh, shoot. Oh, sugar. This is the wrong track. Please go back in. These are the right tracks. So it was like a double CD. So the first CD was really like, I think it was the first CD, was really like horrible. And the second CD was really romantic. November Rain. Yeah, and some of the songs that I don't remember. But I had November Rain. It was 2 songs. And then obviously I knew that I was in love with my best friend. Like really in love. But I was scared of him because he was so much taller than the other average guys and so big, not fat. He used to say, I'm not fat, but big. So that made me really, really insecure. And all these insecurities about masculinity and the male figure and what they represented to me really made it hard for me to be on my feminine. I was just really defensive. So what happened was I continued to date Paul, the short guy, who I could beat up at any time because he was just short. He was about my height. I loved him, but in a non-romantic way. I don't know. I loved him. It was comfortable. It was safe. It was safe being with him. But I was on my masculine. Because I could defend myself if he tried anything, you know. Like a virgin, you know what I mean. So, yeah, I had my first time with this guy. It was very romantic. His mother and his father, they were such sweethearts. They put roses in his bedroom and they left a table, like a breakfast table, ready for us to have breakfast because they knew it was going to be the first time for both of us. So they took a holiday and they spent the weekend off. Never had such nice parents-in-law. Never had to, yeah, that was the ones, because the other times was like a nightmare. And obviously, like, Duncan was sad and mad and frustrated. So was I, actually. But I was safe, you know. I was in my masculine. I was with somebody that I could beat the shit out of if they did anything that I didn't like it. Again. So, a year went by. Nearly 2, actually. I think a year and a half. I came back to Brazil in 1997 to 1998, September. And Paul went off with some girl. I don't know, he cheated on me for all I know. I was devastated because, you know, I was in my masculine. How could that happen? Yeah, I didn't love him, but I did suffer. And I loved him, but not in that way. And I finally decided to tell my best friend that I loved him. I didn't know if it was a good time. I didn't know if he was going to reply. I didn't know if he was going to tell me to F off. And he had already told me so many times that he loved me in these weird ways. So I wrote a letter. Yes, guys, at that time, we used to write letters. Write letters, yeah. I wrote a letter and I stuck a picture saying, look, this is the new man. This is the guy that I actually have been in love with for a very long time. I've been in love with this person. It's so funny. I've been in love with this person for such a long time. Have a look at the picture. I know you're really my best friend, so I want you to tell me what you think. So he went silent. He received my letter, I think, right? Because we never knew when the letters were getting there. He received my letter from Brazil, but he didn't get in touch, didn't call me, because remember, cell phones were like a Jurassic Park kind of thing, right? He then, like after 2 weeks, finally called me. Then my mom said, look, Duncan's on the phone. By then, I had to really step onto my masculine because my mother had sold our apartment and the business partner that she had stole all the money from her bank account and the money from our apartment. So we had like nowhere to live. So we were living in this house that a friend decided to help us. So I was really stepping into my masculine by then, like really, because, you know, my money wasn't mine anymore. I needed to help my mom and my sister and really be a grown-up. So Duncan's like, hi Sybil. When he wanted to piss me off, he used to call me Sybil, because, you know, guys, it's Bella podcast, but my name is Sybil. And then I said, hi, so what do you think? And he said, look Sybil, this is proof to how much I care for you, how much I treasure you, how much I like you, love you, like you. So, well, I don't know who this guy is, okay? But how could you post a picture on the letter that you sent me saying that you love this guy? Detail. The letter and the photograph was of a costume party where the guy was wearing a mask, right? So you couldn't see the guy's face, but you could see the freaking mask, right? And the clothes and the hair, right? And I said, Duncan, could you please have a look at the picture again? He said, you joking? Are you joking? You're out of your mind? Okay, I'll look at the picture. Why do you want me to look at the picture? Stupid guy. Who takes a picture with a mask on? Stupid mask. Stupid guy. And then he was looking at it and he was like, oh, this guy has the same jacket as me. Good taste, he's got good taste. And I'm like, get there faster. Oh, the hair. And I'm like, yes, it's me. I said yes. He said, oh my God, I have been suffering for 2.5 weeks. Just said, well, that's one reason why I really do love you. You're so innocent, funny, and naive, and masculine. And he said, why didn't you tell me? And I said, I did on a letter. I said how I felt about the guy. And he was like, yeah, you did. You love me? I said, yeah, I love you. I wanted to tell you this personally. So yeah, got my ticket. Flew to London. And we met each other. And there he was, standing at Heathrow Airport with what was meant to be flowers, but all the petals were all around him, scattered, because my flight was delayed like 2 hours. So he was shaking so much with the flowers that he just literally destroyed all of them. They're all like just the bud. And I hugged him. I gave him a romantic kiss, like a Hollywood kiss, because, you know, I don't know, it was all new to us. We knew each other since we were like 8 years old. And then we got to be friends when I was 14, 15. So, you know, it has been like 3 years, but kissing your best friend is something different, right? So we kissed romantically, and then we went to the house where he was staying in Peckham Rye, London. Yeah. He was so proud of his washing machine. And literally he was very embarrassed, and I was very free because I had been in Brazil for months by that time, and you know, people are very free here with their bodies and everything else and expressing themselves. Obviously not everybody, right? But then I was able to step onto my feminine again. But still, I never rode a bike. And later on, that same year, just before I boarded to London, my mother told me, as my family, they are Holocaust survivors. And most of their family members, my ancestors, they died during the Holocaust. They told me such a horrible thing. I was 17 when I found this out. That most of the women in my family during the Holocaust were abused, harassed, physically, sexually harassed. So to be able to survive, to be able to make it alive. One of them had a child, a 6-year-old child, right? So to be able to survive, the Germans would come, the Nazis would come, and, you know, already be ready to shoot. So she would say, please don't shoot me, please don't shoot my child, screaming, begging. And they would say, okay, so what do you have to offer? And you know what that means. So she would always say, you can use my body, but please leave me alive and leave my child alive. So she would constantly get abused by a bunch of soldiers who came across, and she would beg to live. So that child, that boy saw his mother being abused, not by one, not by two, but by thousands of soldiers. And then I cried so much. Not in front of my family. In front of my family, I held it in. I was serious. I was holding it in. When I left this coffee, this afternoon coffee, where they were telling me what really happened, I just went into the shower and I cried as much as it was physically possible. I sat on the floor and then we stop and we think, right? Why are women afraid? Why are women stepping into the masculine? Why? Look at the history behind us. Look at our ancestors. Stop, think. Look at what's happening now. My great-grandmother, my grandfather, my great-grandfather would never, ever agree with what is happening now. They survived the Holocaust. They survived. But at what price? At what price did women survive? And again, this is happening. Now this is all over the media. A lot of survivors from the Holocaust have said that they don't agree with what's going on and they're standing against it. They're standing against it. Horrific crimes against women, children, and innocent men. Let's stop and think about it. Where do these fears originate from? So, I cried that day a lot. I cried myself to sleep. I cried myself when I woke up. I cried like in the in-betweens and the breaks, hiding from everybody. It took me years. I think it took me 2 years to be able to talk about this and not be crying, because it doesn't help whoever's at the other side, right? This feeling doesn't help anybody. But then I understood the reason why I stepped onto my masculine. My great-grandmother thought that her husband, my great-grandfather, was dead because he had been taken by the Nazi, because he used to be a dentist. So he was the one to do the implants forcefully onto the soldiers with the poison so that they would commit suicide if they were caught by the other side, by the enemy, right? He finally managed to escape and he looked like skin and bone. And she was looking at she was window shopping, had no money, in France. And as she looked towards this window, this glass window, she saw a reflection of a man, really skinny, and she just thought, this man looks like my husband. It had been a year already. So she really thought he was dead. And when she looked back, she was like, oh my God, it's you. So the little boy, my grandfather, and my great-grandmother, and my great-grandfather managed to get on the ship and come to this country, to which now we call Brazil. And I love and I treasure it because Brazil did embrace my ancestors. But she had to fend for her family. Her husband was looking like he was going to die, just skin and bone. She learned the language. She became a saleswoman. She became a state agent. Yes, she became a state agent. And she made a fortune. She even had like a mini yacht. So proud of her, wherever she is. But this is why I was so fearful of male interaction and stepping onto my feminine. It really is true that most women stepped onto their masculine because they needed to defend themselves. And the genetic information is not a sentence. It is not a sentence. But if you don't know that it's there, if you don't know that information, how can you treat your subconscious? You can only treat it if you know what happened. I was lucky enough to find out what happened. Okay, so basically, try and step onto your feminine, girls, guys, and keep a balance, guys and girls, with your masculine. So I wrote this poem. It's very, very simple, okay? It's very simple. It's done with my heart, okay? So it says, I am art, time and time again. You thought that I was going to break your heart just by being art, when all I wanted was to prevent us from falling apart. The only way to feel is through true love, true art, for it lives in my soul. It has a home in my body, traveling on the surface of my skin, this thin layer touching my heart, every cell. Only this physical body can embody all these ideas I can't get rid of, and I don't really want to. As it is the same feeling that I hold for you, so true, so real. I have all these ideas of you. I'm trying. They thrive, thinking of the moment that they will finally embrace every bit of you, just to tell you that I love you. Okay, guys, we'll see you. I love you. I'll meditate next time, okay, with you guys. Today I didn't prepare enough. I love you. So stepping onto your feminine or into your masculine doesn't mean that you're gonna be this or that forever. It needs a balance, okay? It needs a balance. I love you all. We are love. We are love. We're so much more. And I don't want to be afraid anymore. And I want to ride my bike. I want to feel safe. I hope you're feeling safe. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be afraid. But don't let yourself create a home in that fear. Set yourself free. Bella, Freedom to Be Art. Podcast, 6:30. Every Sunday. See you. Every Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Bella, Freedom to Be Art podcast.